This is the Airzeen Q10 PRO Robotic Vacuum Cleaner. It can map out your house. It has a LiDAR system. It has high suction. It also has a base station in which it can transfer the contents from the vacuum to the base station so you don't have to empty it every day. As a matter of fact, you only have to empty this base station every 60 days. Yes, 2 months. It can even mop your floor. Yeah, it can mop your floor too. So what's the downside of having this vacuum cleaner? Well, if you'd like to know more about this vacuum and what my thoughts are on it, keep watching because you're watching Blue Collar Guy. Okay, we're back. So today we're talking about the Airzeen Q10 PRO Robotic Vacuum. And I've been testing it out. I've got some footage and I found out that it's actually a pretty good vacuum system. It has a LiDAR system that can map out your house. You can even pick the zones in which that it vacuums in. So if you don't want it to do certain zones, you can exclude those zones. You can pick the times in which it vacuums. So if you want to do it when you're at work, you can. You only have to empty the base station every 60 days, which is incredible. And it even has the ability to put water in here so it can do some light mopping of your floor. So it's not a serious mopper, but it can clean up little tiny messes, which is kind of nice. And
water tanks in position.
And it even talks. So what's the catch of this vacuum? So what are the downsides of it and what are the good things about it? Well, we're going to go back to the studio and I'm going to talk about what I liked about it and what I didn't like about it and what I would like to see on their next generation model. Okay, so we're back in the studio and I just wanted to let you know that Airzeen did send me this vacuum at no cost to myself. However, this is not a sponsored video. I am not an Airzeen affiliate, and I'm also not an Amazon affiliate, so I don't get any commission if you buy this vacuum. So rest assured, if I put a product in a link, it's because I truly like it, and not just because I want a commission. Now, moving forward, I did put this vacuum at a friend's house. About 3 years ago, I gave him a robot vacuum as a gift, and that vacuum held up pretty good. So it eventually died because they can only be recharged so many times and then the battery just can't be recharged anymore. So I brought this one over so we could do some long-term tests on it because I know he's going to use it every day. Now, I don't know if there's any replacement batteries for this particular model. I did notice on the underside of the vacuum, on the robot part, that there was a compartment where a battery might be able to be replaced. I did take the opportunity to look at some third-party batteries, and they do sell 14.4 volt batteries for various types of robotic vacuums. So it is possible that you can replace the battery in this vacuum. However, I don't know for sure. So I contacted Airzeen and I asked them if they have replacement batteries for this vacuum. Now, they haven't got back to me yet, but if they do, rest assured, I will put it in the description or in the comments so that you know one way or another if you can get a battery for this vacuum. So I did find out that you can get accessories for it. You can get filters, you can get brushes, you can even get the main beater bar brush, and you can get additional bags, and it's not hard to find. I'm going to put a picture of what those look like here. So here's the main accessories, and here is the bags if you want to get the bags. And they're also not expensive, so they are fairly priced if you need to buy these items. I did look at some replacement parts for more expensive robot vacuums, and their accessories like brushes and filters and things like that can cost quite a bit more. So I think part and parcel. They've priced everything accordingly for the average person that wants to get a decent vacuum at a good price. Now, I am going to put what I found to be the price for this vacuum on Amazon in Canada. So here's what this vacuum costs on Amazon in Canada. I'm going to put that in the corner. So keep in mind, it's going to be much cheaper if you're in the United States, and if you're in other countries, it's going to vary from country to country. But I just wanted to give a reference that that's how much it costs if you're in Canada. But you'll have to do some conversions, and you'll have to take a look to see what it will cost in your country. Now, sometimes you can get these items a lot cheaper if you get them from the website directly, because they will often have specials if you go to their direct link, because they're not paying Amazon commissions and things like that. So if you go directly, you can get them a lot cheaper, but you may have to wait a little bit longer because the delivery time is going to be all the way from China. So now we're going to go to the unboxing. We're going to see what you get in the box. Now keep in mind, I had to do a voiceover because I'm not in a studio environment. I'm over at a friend's house and I needed full control over the audio. After we're done the unboxing, we're going to come back here and I'm going to show you what the manual looks like.
Okay, so today we're going to be unboxing the Airzeen Q10 PRO robotic vacuum system. There's a list right there on the right hand side of everything that's in the box, but we're going to go over it right now. I'm going to be opening up the box, and here we have the quick start guide. It's a nice big cardboard cutout. It's got a QR code on there. It's got everything you need to get started rather quickly. And then further into the box we have the detailed manual, which comes in different languages and gives you a little bit more information than the quick start guide. I'm going to set that down there, and now we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the box, and now we have the mopping plate. I'm going to pull this out. It has a mop attached to it. You can wash those in a machine because they're made of a material, and they attach through Velcro, and the whole plate just snaps on the underside of the robotic vacuum. Then I'm going to pull this out here and dig a little bit deeper, and we're getting to the vacuum itself. So the vacuum itself is packaged really well. There's no scratches on it, as you can see. Then we've got the vacuum, and there's the LiDAR. It's got the power button on top and the return to home button. And on the underside we have where the brush gets attached, power brush and stair sensors and mopping plate attachment there. So I'm just going to remove these little foam pads because they have to be removed in order for the bumpers to work. So even though it has a LiDAR system, the bumpers are like a backup. So if it bumps into something, it knows to back up and not just keep driving forward into something over and over again. The wheels are really good. It's got good springs on the wheels so it can go over higher items like thresholds, that sort of thing. Here's the brushes. You get an extra brush. It only uses one brush, but you get an extra brush with the vacuum system. And I'm just going to throw that in the garbage there. And we're going to move on to the next thing. So digging a little deeper into the box. Oh, I found a filter. Here is a filter. Now this is a dust filter for the air. You see them on vacuums, but this one here fits inside where the dust collection bin is inside the robotic vacuum itself. Here's a maintenance tool, and you use this if you get hair gummed up into the beater brush. And the whole brush comes out really easily on the underside of the vacuum. You just undo a couple of snaps. It's very simple. Now we're into the base station. So the base station is where all the magic happens. So we've got two contacts, and this has got a dirt transfer port. So this vacuum, when it links up with the base station, will transfer the dirt from the robotic vacuum to the base station. Oh, I just dropped something, and it's got some extra pads. These are extra mopping pads, by the way, and you can wash them and you can buy other ones. They recommend every 6 months to replace them. There's the dust bag for the dirt, and then we also have one installed already into the base. So they've already installed one for you, so you don't have to. And they also do that, I believe, to show you how it's done. So I'm just looking it over now, and this is it. That's all there is for the unboxing, and we're good to go. Let's go back to the studio.
Okay, we're back. So that was the unboxing. It was very interesting what you get in the box. The box was kind of packaged like in one of those eco-friendly boxes. Okay, so we're going to go to the downward shot now. We're going to take a look at the manual and see what the manual has to say on the instructions and if there's any pertinent information that you need to know. So here we go. And it's in English, Dutch, and French. It tells you about safety bags. These are all your safety instructions. And up here, if you notice, this is all your website, like email addresses, things of that nature. And battery and charging. It tells you about how to do not disassemble, repair, or modify the battery. Charging without prior authorization. Do not place the charging pile near a heat source. Do not use third-party batteries charging your charging piles. Okay. So I'm going to go back to me for a second. So I guess that kind of answers my question about the battery. It says they don't recommend using third-party batteries. But I did send them an email because I did want to know if they had any batteries that they sold for this unit should the battery die, if they have any replacement batteries, and how much they would cost. I did notice that the third-party batteries that were 14.4 volts were about $25, so they weren't that expensive. However, it does say in the instructions that they don't support for third-party batteries. Now, if you do keep this unit and you have it longer than 3 years, obviously it's going to be over the warranty, and at that point, you know, you don't have to worry about voiding any warranty. But you should be aware that sometimes using third-party batteries can result in things like fires, especially for lithium-ion batteries. So you have to be careful of that for safety reasons. And that's probably why they disclosed it, because not every battery manufacturer will manufacture batteries to the safety standards of that particular unit. So they may not want to be liable if, let's say, the vacuum ends up burning someone's house down, and then when they investigate, they'll say, well, it was because of this vacuum. And then that's going to give them bad publicity, and it wouldn't be their fault because it wasn't their battery that burned down the house. It was because it was a third-party battery that they had no knowledge of. And that's why they put those things in these instruction manuals. So we're going to go back to the downward shot. We're going to continue on with the manual. Okay, so then it says here the battery must be removed if the appliances is going to be discarded, and it does say that the battery does come out and the appliance must be powered off. Okay, so that is good to know. The battery can come out and the battery can be unplugged. So maybe there's hope. Maybe we can get a battery for this. Okay, so now here is pictures. These are little pictorials of the different parts. And you can get all of these little mop parts and accessories. I am going to put a picture up in the corner so that you know how much they cost and what you get. These mop ones, you can wash these. However, it does say that you need to replace them about every 6 months. And the dustbin, of course, you don't have to replace that. And the holder, you don't have to replace that. But the filters, you are going to have to replace. And you will also have to get dust bags, which are here. And it says that the unit is rated for 50 watts, 14 volts, lithium-ion battery. I'm just going to go back to me for a quick second. Lithium-ion batteries usually have a cycle rating of about 700 to 900 cycles. That's how long they're usually good for before they start to lose their charge, and you know, they don't last as long as they did. So they're usually good for 100% up until about 700 cycles, and then they will slowly decline, and then you know, you'll be at 40%, 50%, and things like that. Now the good thing about this vacuum is when the battery does get low, it will go back to the charging station, and then it will continue on where it left off. So you don't need to worry about it starting all over again. And that's the issue with the other type of vacuum. The one that I gave him before would just kind of bounce around and then it would just start exactly where it was before. And that's the problem. It would charge and then it would just start right from the beginning again. And you don't want that. You want it to finish the job. And this one actually does that because it will go back where it left off and it will continue on. So if you have a bigger house, you don't have to have a whole bunch of different vacuums. You just need the one vacuum. And it will slowly map out the house and it will eventually get the job done. Now we're going to go back to the downward shot and continue on. Okay, so now this is for the base station. The base station has a vacuum in it. And that one will obviously be a little bit more powerful than this one. This is 50 watts, this is 700 watts. So when it kicks in, it sounds just like a house vacuum. It sucks all the dirt out, and then you've got a clean robot. And then it will continue on after that. It will charge up, and then it will just do its job again according to the schedule that you set. And this here tells you what all the lights do and what they mean. And if you get red lights, you know, indicator lights, a flashing red light means the dust bag is full or not installed correctly. So this one here says if the red indicator is red and it flashing, dust bag was not installed correctly. So it's full or not installed correctly. Remember that. And if you have a white one, it stays on a normal position, connected to the power, flashing slowly charging, flashing rapidly, dust collecting. And it's off, power removed. So there is indicator lights on the base station as well. And it's good to know what those lights do. So if you look under the underside, this is where I seen the battery compartment. There's a little screw here, and then it tells, you know, this is how I know that the battery comes out, but I also don't know if you got replacement batteries. And this is what all the different sensors are. It's got the mopping module here, the roller blush. You can change these, by the way. You can put new ones in, and there's just two clips here and here. You just pop those out, and the whole thing pops out very easily. The wheels have very good shock absorbers. The side brush over here, now you notice it only has one instead of two. I'm going to go back to me for a second. So when robot vacuums first came out, they had two. They didn't have one. The reason why they switched over to one is because the other one usually got hung up on something, or they noticed that it was killing the battery faster. By only having one rotating brush instead of two, because you're only doing one edge at a time, you're actually going to save battery juice by not having a motor on that side rotating all the time. And that's why I think they did that. Okay, so now we have the laser radar sensor over here. And we have the charging contacts, dustbin release, dustbin port. And of course, there is bumpers over here as well. So when you look at the video, you're going to notice that the LiDAR is spinning around. It's just like those driverless cars. And that's exactly what it's doing. It's actually mapping things out with a laser to know where it is. Now, unlike the other vacuum that I gave him, the other robot vacuum, the old one, it would just bump around and hit things. And it was using the bumpers to say, oh, I hit into something, now I got to back up and change direction. This one doesn't do that. It doesn't bump into anything. It just goes up very slowly, very gently. The bumpers are just there in case it doesn't see something with the LiDAR. If it misses something, then it'll bump into something. The bumpers will trigger it. So it has a redundancy set of sensors. It has the new version along with the old version. And I kind of like that. They didn't abandon the tried and true. They left it alone and they just added to it, which is kind of nice. So let's go back down and continue on. Okay, so now we're going to look at this, and this is where the indicator lights are. So if you want to know where the indicator light is on the base, and there's your infrared settings, there's your infrared lens, charging contacts, and suction port. And there's your top cover. You just lift that up, and the dust bag's inside. Now over here, this is what it says not to do. So don't leave wires. So this is what it says not to do. Don't leave wires all hanging out, and it's going to run them over, it's going to stop it, and it's going to jam it. And that's not good. You don't want that. That can harm your robot vacuum. Now they do have safety measures in them where they'll just stop what they're doing and they'll shut down. But still, it's not healthy for robot vacuums when this happens. Now over here, it says what to do. This is what you want your place to look like. Free of wires and nothing that's going to get hung up in any spinning motors. That's what you want. Now over here, you do not want to have water on the floor because it is not a wet dry vac. It is a mopping vac, but not a wet dry vac. So if you have water on the floor, it's going to suck that water up into the machine, and that's not going to be good for it. And over here, it says stairs are fine because it's got sensors that won't fall down the stairs. So I'm just going to go back to me. So It is not a wet-dry vac. It does light mopping, and it keeps your floors looking fresh. So think of it like a Swiffer wet jet. So you have floors and you have a little bit of, some dust on them, or you have a little, some little stains, that sort of thing, where maybe someone spilled a drink or something and you want to, just clean that off. That's what this does. It is very similar to a Swiffer wet jet in the way that it would clean your floors. You can also use it as a sweeper. So the pad will also sweep things just like dust, to keep dust from building up on your floors, because on wood floors or linoleum floors or simulated wood floors, dust can build up. You can get those dust bunnies, and this is good for that. It'll collect them and get rid of them for you. So I like that feature. So let's go back down and take a look some more. Okay, so now over here we've got the distance. This is what they recommend, 0.5 meters when you're placing the base, and 1.2 in front. This allows it to be able to find the base and not have any obstacles or obstructions when it's finding its home. And this is what it looks like when you're taking the tank out. And by the way, the water just goes in here, and it's not a lot of water. It doesn't hold a lot of water. So I just want to be clear on that. Here is a picture of where you fill it. So if you want to know where to fill it, that's where it goes. It's well indicated, but I am going to go back to me and discuss that. It does not hold a lot of water. So rest assured, it's not going to be mopping your whole house. It is probably going to be doing a little bit of spot cleaning here and there, that sort of thing. But it is not like a big reservoir of water. It also doesn't take water from the unit and take it into the base station. So some robot vacuums will have one for dry dirt and one for dirty water. This one doesn't do that. It's just for dry dirt. So this is kind of like a hybrid. It's sort of like it does a little bit of light mopping, but it's mostly a vacuum that can do some, spot cleaning, that sort of thing. However, those other ones, those ones that do those, they're about $1,400 to about $3,000. They get quite expensive. So I just want to make you aware of that, because a lot of them have water heaters in them and things of that nature. And they also are a little bit more money when you're trying to run them and service them, that sort of thing. So keep that in mind as well. This is going to be lower maintenance than one of those. It's kind of a good compromise if you just are living in an apartment and you just want to have, your floors freshened up every now and then, that sort of thing. But it is not going to be like an industrial scrubber. Let's go back down to the book and take a look some more. Okay, so now we're just going to be looking at the app. This is the app, and by the way, this is the QR code. So if you want to know what the QR code for the app is, you could probably scan this right from your TV and it'll probably work. So this over here tells you how the app works and how it connects, how it finds the device. And then over here we have, maintenance, that sort of thing. It says maintain the water tank once a day. And then it says if it doesn't go back to the base station, then you're going to have to dump this once a day too. That's the dust bin collector in the robot itself, if it's not going back to the base station to evacuate the dirt. Now this over here, this is where the air filter goes out. So this is the air filter, and you'll put the air filter inside this little trap door, and it's at the top when you pull out the dust collector. And that's pretty much it. There's the roller brush, and it comes out as well. And this is how you use the tool to clean out the hair. You can use this tool here to just get through the brush and then take off any threads or anything that might have got wound up in there, so you can loosen them off. And this is how you install the other brush. That's this little guy here, because it's got the little connector. Let me just tilt this so you can see this a little better, because it is kind of dark right about there. And then you can see the little square hole. Just line it up and away you go. And there's how the dust bag is replaced. Pretty simple. Okay. And if you do get obstructions in the base unit, you flip it upside down, and then there's a dust path. And then you're going to take this tray out, you're going to clean the dust path, and then you're going to put it back together, flip it back, right side up, and then you're good to go. and it gives you the full instructions on how to clean out this dust path if you should get some debris that clog up the little path there. Here is the maintenance schedule, and this is what it tells you to do for the cleaning frequency. This will be your responsibility of the owner. Just wipe the sensors, the dust path once a month, dust bag, that sort of thing. So it is a lot lower maintenance than your standard robot vacuum. And then, of course, this is troubleshooting. So we're just going to go back to me. Okay, so I'm going to show you the robot vacuum in action. I'm going to show you it. You know, we put some rice on the floor, which is actually quite difficult because a lot of the spinning brushes will just kind of knock it around and they usually don't vacuum it up very well. I put it on its highest setting. This vacuum has 3 suction settings. I put it on its most powerful setting, and the other settings are just, you know, if you don't want it to be so noisy, you can actually quiet it down a bit if you want to have it vacuum at night, that sort of thing. But I put it on its most powerful setting because I wanted to give it a fair chance and see what it could actually pick up. So here's a video in the corner here of it at work picking up the rice, and it did a pretty good job. Now, one thing I need to let you know is we put it in manual control. So we were controlling it remotely. We weren't having it control itself. I just want to be totally transparent and honest about that. And the reason why I did that is because when it's in robot mode, it's going to kind of follow a certain path and it's going to be out of the camera shot. In other words, it's going to keep going out of my camera shot and I can't get it in the shot. And I also wanted to know how well it picked up the rice. So I wanted to keep going over the rice to see, well, what can it do? Can it pick up the rice? Can it not pick up the rice? This is like best case scenario, and it actually did a pretty good job. So once it found the rice, you know, it did have some issues where the spinning brush can actually knock some of the particles out of the way, but eventually it got them all, and that was the main thing. So I do have confidence that it's going to do a pretty good job cleaning your house. Is it going to be the most powerful robot vacuum? Well, I don't know about that. However, the one that quit on him, the one that I gave him 3 years ago, was about half the power of this one. And he was pretty happy with that one. This one has got about 6,000 kilopascals, I think. And the other one was only at 2,600, if I remember correctly. So it was roughly about half or less than half. And he was quite happy with the performance that that one was doing, so I have no doubt that he's going to be happy with this one. So what are my final thoughts on this vacuum system? Well, I think overall it's a pretty good bang for the buck. As you could tell, the price is right. It was about $400 Canadian, and that's a pretty good price. Now, I did notice that on Prime Day, and there was some other specials, you could get it even less than that. So for what this thing does, you have to remember that this thing is vacuuming your house. It has a LiDAR system where it's mapping out your house. You can choose the rooms that you want it to go to. It has some obstacle avoidance, but not wires. Oh yes, and one other thing, not dog doo-doo. So if you have pets, it is actually good for pets. However, it is not good if those pets are not housebroken. So keep that in mind. If it was to run into any dog feces or any other type of feces, it may spread it around. And I don't know if you've ever seen what a robot vacuum can do with that sort of thing, but it is not a pretty sight. So if you know my channel, you know that I do product reviews on things that a blue-collar person can attain and can actually afford. So on the high end of the scale for a blue-collar person, I think $1,000 is pretty much the very limit. Now, I only say that because some people might prioritize things. So as far as robot vacuums are concerned, this one is right in the blue-collar price range, and at the high end of that would probably be $1,000. So that type of vacuum would only really appeal to someone who really desired that particular item. In other words, having a clean house and having something that's sophisticated was really important to them. But for the average person, I think this one is just fine. If I was in the market for a vacuum myself and I wanted something that had a separate dust collection bin and I wanted something that I only had to really empty every 2 months, it's going to appeal to me. A, it's easy to use. Two, I don't have to maintain it every day. It's something that I only have to look at every now and then. And because, we work really hard, come home and we're tired, we don't really want to have to mess around with things like that. And we just want things to kind of look after themselves. Now, we don't also want things to be overly priced, especially on something like a vacuum cleaner. It's not something that we really say, ooh, look at that vacuum over there. We really appreciate what these things can do, but at the same time, we still want to get them at a good price. Now, people that are in a higher income bracket, obviously it's not going to be that big of a deal for them. They can buy their Dysons, they can buy their Roboroks, they can buy, things that are like $3,000–$4,000, and it doesn't really faze them. But for most of us, this type of price range is something that we would really be interested in. So what would I like to see on the next generation of this vacuum? Well, I would like to see something that had a touch display on the vacuum itself. Now, touch displays are not really that expensive to put on things anymore, so I would like to see something where you can really see what's going on and scroll through the different settings on the robot itself, and then that way you don't necessarily have to go into the app. You could pretty much program what you wanted to do on the vacuum itself and then just kind of send it on its merry way. The other thing that I would like to see is a front roller brush. Yeah, a front roller brush. So on my vacuum that I have here, it's got two brushes. It's got a hard brush like this one has, and it's also got a soft brush. And those soft brushes are great when it comes to picking up debris on floors. Yeah, so if you have things on your floor, like, let's say you got dry cereal or you got rice or something like that, they sweep it up really, really nice. And I think that would be a good addition to one of these. One thing I always tell my subscribers is never make a purchase based on just my video. Always do your research. Watch all the videos on the Airzeen Q Pro 10 and tell me what you think in the comments. Tell me what you think about this vacuum so that this information can go back to Airzeen so that they can improve their products and keep making their customers happy. I did notice that they have their email address all over the place, and that is a sign that they want to stay connected with their customers and they have good customer support. I'd like to thank Airzeen for sending out the Q10 Pro. It was a very interesting product. I really could not believe all the things that this vacuum could do. They have come a long way in just 3 years. I was very impressed with the mapping, all the different rooms you can pick. It's a very sophisticated system. They sure have come a long way. So take care, be safe at work, and I will see you at the next video. Bye.